All right, guys, I am here today with Gus Ofili. I am super excited and I appreciate you, Gus, for being here. Gus is not only a real estate or associate broker, you sell a ton of real estate, which I think, first of all, you're a huge example of somebody coming in as a sales agent and being incredibly successful. But not only that, you've taken that and you've scaled that into real estate investing. You've gone from zero properties to 70 something properties in 5 years, which most people never buy that many in their life. So your journey is incredible. And so I appreciate you being here. And I just think your journey and your experience is such a resource to people that either are getting started in investing or are investing and they want to grow their journey. So thank you for being here, Gus.
Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate it, and hopefully, whatever I share today is able to help someone out there in the future.
And I know it will. Every time I have interacted with you, you've been a wealth of information and resources. So I think let's just start, if you're willing, by kind of telling us about your entry into real estate and kind of walking us through your journey a little bit.
Yeah, I think my entry into real estate is quite common to a lot of people. Working in a 9 to 5, as far as in the banking world. So right after college, the job I was able to find was a sales position, as far as over the phone with Bank of America. Um, It was the only job that I could find, you know what I mean? After college, the whole big thing is you're gonna get this high paying job. Where I was applying to many different places, and they said I was too shy, which I'm not really shy once you get to know me, but it was my first interactions with adults. I went from high school to college, and now I'm speaking to people that are running their households. So I was timid to a degree. But when I got with Bank of America, it was over the phone job. So what we used to do is people would call in to activate the cards or make payments. Our job was to get them from doing those particular things to having to do balance transfers or open new credit cards. So I was able to sharpen my skills as far as being able to understand what a client is looking for and able to help them out implementing things that will help them in their future. So as I sharpen those skills, I came in 3rd place as far as sales in my 4th year. So at that time, and the first 2 got to go to, I forgot where they went. Like a vacation, and Tom Brady was there, so I missed out by 1 spot. I was super mad, but, and now I'm thinking management, that's the growth you wanna go, you kill it as a rep, then you go to management. They would plug me in as, like, a substitute manager, but I ended up not getting the job a few times, and I'm like, okay, what's going on? Like, I'm thinking I'm I'm the I'm the hot new guy, and when I say that, I mean, like, work-wise. I was the guy that was on the come up, and everyone knew it. Why am I not getting these positions? And normally that's how Bank of America usually runs it. After 2 to 3 times people don't get the position. I think they do that on purpose to test their loyalty to the company. I don't know, but I had enough of it. So I was like, yo, I got to think of something else that's going to go ahead and benefit me in the long run. So speaking with my wife, she's my wife now, but back then she was my girlfriend. She's like, my brother-in-law, he owns a title company. Maybe you should talk to him about being a real estate agent. So I'm like, okay, real estate agent. I don't know nothing about houses. But let me see what the conversation leads. He ends up introducing me to different people and different brokers and different real estate agents around the area. Now I'm very competitive, and you know what things I don't like? I don't like when people hide who they really are. I'm competitive as hell. And it's not in a malicious way. I don't want you to do bad and then me pass you. I want you to do your best and then me pass you, if I could put it that way. Because if you do your best, that's gonna make me elevate my game to to do the same or be better. So it's friendly competition. That's how I like to see it. Sometimes people don't see it the same way. So when I was meeting these agents and I was sitting back, I was hearing the things that were saying, I was meeting them. I was like, okay, your first year, how much did you make? And they were like 80,000. I was like, you made 80,000? I was like, oh, okay. So this may be something. I ended up taking the class. And then when I took the class, the instructor, he was super cool guy. He said, if you're going to do this, you might as well do it full time. And, they don't like me to say this, but I want to recommend that to you guys. Because if you're doing it part time, they're going to go, the people that are calling you, they're going to go ahead and call someone up right after you don't pick up, and you're going to lose those clients. So my thinking when I was in the class, I was like, dang, my goal is to continue to work my job and do this part-time. So as we all know, so we can get it to a point where now I can quit my job and I can go over to being an agent 100%. But when he said that, it resonated with me for the next few days. Like, that makes sense. You know what? I'm gonna quit my job. So I ended up giving my 2-week notice. I would say the management team laughed at me and they're like, Gus, there's always this stigma. Real estate's gonna crash. Before I was even in real estate, so this is like 2017. This real estate market's gonna crash and da 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 da. I'm like, bro, I'm here. I'm capped out pretty much. Like you're giving positions to people, and I'll say this that can't even compare to me in my own opinion. I'm like, I'm tapped out. So I took out my 401k, I gave my 2 weeks notice, and I jumped into real estate. Now, I like to say I jumped into real estate and it was all lavish after that, but I ended up failing my test 3 times. The first time I took it, I kind of I don't know if you did this, but in my SATs, I was just checking boxes. I saw myself doing the same thing on the computer. So I was like, okay, I failed. I failed. You know what I mean? And now I got to study a little bit more. I studied my butt off, getting better at those tests. I passed one part, then I failed the other part. So I had to come back. On my fourth time, I passed. And then when I passed, I was able to go ahead and what I also was doing, I was going to each brokerage saying, hey, I'm interested in being an agent here. So I was using each brokerage to leverage the other. So I was able to be put in the best position. But this is business. You know what I mean? Like brokerages and brokers are doing the same thing. Why not, present myself as someone who's going to have the intentions of killing it, use one to go ahead and position myself with the other. And I came into a great position where I came in on it with a team. So only thing I needed from the team was for them to tell me how to do the paperwork. The hustle and bustle, me being on social media and seeing the things people were doing, I think I could create enough traction to get people to come and gravitate to me. But the things I don't know is the paperwork that comes along with it. What are the rules and regulations and things along those lines? So I was with that team probably for like 3 months at the end of 2018. And then 2019, I decided to go solo. And that was my first full year as a real estate agent. So that was kind of like the main points, what led me from where I was to becoming a real estate agent.
And one thing you pointed out that I think is so important for people that want to get into real estate sales to know, some of the most successful agents didn't pass their test the first time.
Yes.
The real estate licensing class teaches you to pass a test, not how to be a successful agent. And so you get your license, and then if you don't find a broker, like you started with a team that trained you, I got lucky when I started and I had a broker that trained me. I didn't realize there's tons of brokers that don't. And
Mhm.
that's why we have agents that have no idea what they're doing because they're not getting any training. But some of the most successful agents I know took that test like 7 times.
Yeah.
And so it's just, I want to note that for people that are discouraged, it doesn't matter. It sucks that you have to pay for it again. But really, that information, it's kind of one and done. And being a successful agent, that's stuff you're going to learn on the ground.
Yeah, after you get over that hump, with most cases, that's long gone. Yeah, passing the test that's in the past. Now you're looking forward to what tasks you had before that. And I'll say this next part. Even in college, now I wasn't a straight A student or nothing like that. I did graduate. Um, Even the kids that were high scholars and they used to get all the good grades, as soon as we got to the dorm room and real life situations were happening, those people couldn't find their way out of a paper bag. So that's when I first noticed, I was like, oh, they're smart, book smart, but they can't think off the cuff, or they're not like when real problems occur, they don't know how to go ahead and use critical thinking to get past it. So sometimes, since I was little, we created this thing. If you're book smart, you're the best, you're the elite. But if you got this skill to put things together in your head and think 3 steps before, you're actually the one with the skills.
And I think that I didn't realize that until I was in my mid or upper 20s because you're so right. Everybody there I was always in school. I worked really hard, but I was never the smartest and I wasn't a good test taker. Some of those people that were really book smart, they don't have people skills. And if you talk to anybody in HR or anybody in hiring, people hire who they want to be around and who they want to work with, not who is necessarily the smartest.
Correct.
And like if you're super smart but I can't talk to you, I don't wanna be around you 40
100.
hours a week and interacting with you, so I think those people get passed over and we forget, and this is what's scary about everything being online now and people not interacting with human beings. I think we're seeing a generation that's really losing those interaction skills, and I think it's really concerning.
I think it's very important, especially in the kind of line of work that we're in, being a real estate agent, being an investor, whatever entrepreneur avenue it is, if you're not able to create relationships, if you're not able to go ahead and put pieces of the puzzle together, you're going to have a very difficult time.
Absolutely. Okay, so you got into real estate, but you kind of haven't told us yet. You have sold, I wrote this down. You've sold over 430 houses in 6 years, correct?
Yep.
And
Yes.
so that is so it sounds like everything you do, you really go above and beyond. But a lot of people get into real estate and I used to teach the new agent orientation classes, and there's people that come in and fall off and come in and fall off because they think I'm going to get into real estate and make so much money, and they don't understand how much work you can make a lot of money, but it's an
Mhm.
incredible amount of work.
Oh,
So
yes.
tell me about now you're in real estate, you started with a team, you left the team once you kind of figured out the paperwork, the logistics side of it. Tell me about how you were able to scale even just as an agent to that amount of sales.
Yeah, good question. And when you bring up, selling 430,000, I mean, I'm sorry, selling 430 430 homes in 6 years, people look at you and then they start questioning you. And then I feel like I got to prove myself. But the actuality is, when I got into the game, I kind of had an idea what people wanted to see and where I was going to get my attraction. So the team that I went with, they were super popular. Um, so I knew that popularity was gonna push me to the forefront. So being on their social media, boom. Now people that didn't know me through their avenue of popularity, they have an idea who I am. Cool. Now, once they come over to my page, now I'm gonna hit them with my personality. Now I'm gonna hit them with my knowledge. Now I'm gonna hit them with my humor. I'm gonna hit them with different things. So they're like, "Who is this guy?" Right then and there, I knew I had a great opportunity to go ahead and make a big splash. Now, there was other things that played a part in it. I'm gonna go down the list. Being at the office 24/7. Now, the reason I say that is because at the beginning, you have no you have no work. I mean, I was used to a 9 to 5, so I was at the office sitting there like, okay. What do you do? Like, you gotta figure things out for yourself. There's no like guidelines. Even with the team, they're mostly doing what they're doing. You got to figure out your own business. This wasn't like a team that was just giving me leads. I had to figure out things for myself. So the one of the biggest things is I took out my 401k. That was my down payment to be successful in real estate. So I'll go through the tunnels I created to get some leads. One, being at the office 24/7, and every person in that office, I made sure I introduced myself. Hey, my name is Gus Ofili. I'm a new real estate agent. Hey, if you're looking for open houses, if you're looking for me to take on any clients that you don't want to work with, things along those lines, I'm here to help with that. And if you want to go out for lunch, we could go ahead and do that. So I'm now in my office. I'm getting in front of everyone. The next thing, networking events. Now, I want to go ahead and meet all these people. I'm an introvert. I don't like going to all these things, to be honest, because I feel like a lot of conversations are BS. I feel like, oh yeah, and we're talking BS. I really want to get to the nitty gritty, get to the business, and let's make some money. But you have to do these things at the beginning because you got to get your name out there. So I'm meeting the president of this bank. I'm meeting that person. So now I'm shaking hands with these people. And the biggest thing I wanted, what was your name? What was your card? I want to get their name. I want to add them on social media. I want them to see what I'm doing. So adding these people on social media was my target anytime I was going to these networking events. Now, some people feel different about social media. Social media is free. That's free marketing. There's nothing better than waking up in the morning, sending the post out. You don't know who sees it, but it's like investing into real estate. It's making money for you and making connections for you. The next thing is, so at our brokerage, we had a thing called phone time. So each agent had 2 hours. If someone called the office, they would get those calls. So there would be a good amount of calls coming through. So while I was at the office, just sitting there, because you had to sell at least 5 homes to be put on the list. So at the beginning, I didn't sell 5 homes, but being putting things together. Okay, what I do know is I'm making a great relationship at the lady at the front desk who's controlling those calls. So if someone's not there, guess who she's going to send those calls to? she's gonna send this call to an agent that don't got no business because he's here right in front of her and he's ready. So I was getting, I'm not gonna say a lot, but I was getting quite a bit of calls that particular way, whether it be land, a waste of time, whatever it was. I was getting those calls. Another avenue was Zillow. So I'm thinking to myself, hey, Zillow, I'm seeing the marketing for Zillow. So if I pay some money, I got my 401k money, I can use that for a down payment, maybe get some leads. Everyone's like, don't use Zillow. Zillow's the monster. It's going to be the end of our business and da 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 da. Then I'm like, okay. So I had a meeting with Zillow and they told me the people that were in the areas, if you're familiar with Zillow, you know what I'm talking about, in the areas that brought leads in these particular areas. I was like, wait, I know that agent. They're selling a lot. Wait, I know that agent. They're selling a lot. I'm like, I feel like people are telling me the wrong info because it seems like these people are using it. And I'm thinking, most things we do is pay to play. If I'm going to buy a property, I'm putting money down to buy that property for it to go ahead and cash flow. So I'm going to do the same thing here. And so I went on to go ahead and look for the areas where I could get the cheapest. I could put down the less amount of money to get the most kickback. So it was like these royal towns where everyone wasn't trying to be in. As soon as I started getting leads through those avenues, people I never would have talked to before. All right, cool. Now Facebook, I made my own business page. Now every video I made, I would sponsor those do sponsor ads. So I would throw $50 or 50, $60 behind it. At this time, Facebook was different. So you could target towns at this time. Now it's a little bit different. You have to do a range. At this time, I target particular towns that I got my money with Zillow. So I'm targeting those towns. I'm not targeting the big city. I'm staying on the outskirts. So you're seeing my stuff if me and you are friends or if you're following my page, but I'm hitting those particular areas, throwing $50, making sure I'm doing videos that will, catch people off guard. Now I'm getting people following me that way. Uh, the 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 I would say the thing that really changed things for me in the office. Remember how I told you that I went to every person in the office and I was like, "Hey, if you need me, let me know." There was one particular couple. They met this seller and they kind of didn't want to deal with it. It was a house. It was a mobile home, a single wide mobile home. It was old too. It was like early 1970s, but it was on 20 acres of land. Hey, they're like, Gus, we met this. We don't really want to do it. We see you're out there young, ambitious, and you want to go ahead and, take on the world. We'll give you this and we'll take 15% if you sell it. I'm like, cool. And these next parts is the truth. I like to tell the truth. So I go to the showing. He's sitting there. He was, how can I put this? He was raw. He was uncut, unfiltered. He's rolling a doobie right in front of me. And then I'm like, okay, is this how all the listings are going to be? But, I'm getting all the info. And then, he's smoking, his wife is smoking. It was, I would say, probably not the most professional matter, but at that time it didn't matter to me. All right, cool. We got all the info. Boom, I put it on the market. Ever since then, he was cussing me out every single day, like yelling at me. My wife was like, "Who's that?" I say, "Hey, this is the listing I got." He's cussing me out. He's like, someone came to his property, left his door open, and he's like, "Tell him I would F him up if you ever see him. He's not allowed." I'm like, wow, this guy's extreme. So we got it to the point, and this is what I used to do. I used to put houses on Marketplace. It's kind of popular now, but back then I didn't see many people in my area that was doing it. I put it on Marketplace. I found the guy who just got money from a lawsuit. He got like $50,000, something along those lines. He said he was interested in it. His credit was shot. We brought him over to the bank for a portfolio loan. With the portfolio loan, you normally got to put like 20, 25% down. So the bankers were able to work whatever they did to get him qualified. So he got qualified. I bring him over. He sees the house. He likes it. We're able to put the deal together. Now, the biggest thing is after that was one of the hardest transactions. And it was early on. It was like 120 grand. But when it was done, I knew I had to make a splash in the office. So that couple told me they wanted 15%. I ended up giving them way more than 15%. And I did that on purpose because I wanted them to tell everyone else in the office that I did that. And who's to say it won't go outside of the office and to other agents? You know how it is. If you have a if you have a good name in this field, that could take you very far in this business. So that avalanched. I did that, and they started telling everyone's like, "Hey," I'm starting getting text messages. "Hey, Gus, I have this house. It's about 30 minutes away. Do you want that? Give me 25%." Cool. Now people are trusting me. The last part I would say, I'm doing funny videos, informational videos on social media. And the people that I'm working with are strangers, whether through Zillow, through phone calls at the office, or through leads from my office. Once I started showing closings on social media, so I came up here, I went to college up here. Once I started showing closings on social media, now people I knew were hitting me up. So it was like, oh, Gus, he's an agent? But now I'm showing closings. They're like, "Hey, Gus, I've been thinking about da 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 da." So now the people that I know and I went to school with, or I know through my personal life, they're hitting me up. So it all hit at once, and it was COVID. So I think it was a little before COVID. So my first full year, 2019, I sold 50 houses. That's very good. The year after, COVID hits. So that throws everything in a world spin. So, everything sped up. So I went from 50 houses to 71 houses. And then after that, the two years after that, I sold over 100 houses through those avenues. So that's a little bit of how I got started as an agent.
So how did you balance that? Because for somebody not in the real estate industry, that's a lot of volume. That's a lot of sales. And I imagine the most houses I ever sold in a year was like between 70. And that was a lot of work. And I thought I never want to have a year like this in my life again because it was such a hard year. I was always on the phone. I was up till 2 in the morning writing contracts. I was showing houses like crazy. And so to say you did over 100, to me, just to even think about balancing that is crazy. Was your work life balance just out the window? How were you structuring your day? How did you do that?
So work was everything. So I go back to my Bank of America job. I used to come in on my days off when I was managing a team. Let's say I had a day off. I would come in and make sure my team is get because I wanted that next step so bad. And I don't even know if it was even for the money. I think it was more for the power. You know what I mean? That false sense of power. So I wanted it so bad that even on days off, I would come in. So that leads into being an entrepreneur. And as we know, the more time and effort you put in, the more discipline you put in, the more you're going to see results go ahead and start to happen. It's like you're planting the seed in multiple areas, and now they're all popping up all at once. So I didn't. So like I said, I started at the end of 2018. I didn't have any first sales at the beginning, but I was doing it every day. I was going to the office. I was doing the things I just talked about, and then and I still remember I had three under contract. I was like, oh shit, this is happening. Like all this hard work is like really happening. My broker asked me the question, so I'll say this next part. I don't look like I'm from Maine because I'm not from Maine. I'm from Connecticut. Most people, don't look like me, but I don't use that as an excuse. It doesn't matter if you're tall, short, black, white, whatever it may be. It's about who puts in the most effort at the end of the day, who can make other people money. So with that being said, I forgot where I was going with that. But with that being said, um, my broker, okay, now my broker asked me, Gus, how are you keeping track of all this? And I'm like, "Well, I just got everything in the." So, the notepads in your phone? Everything
Mhm.
was in my phone, like, it would be the address, the date it closed, and a check mark if we got past the inspection. That's all I had. I'm not organized. I'll never sit here in front and say, "Oh, I was organized." Sometimes I feel like I jumped out of the plane and the wind was just catching me. Like, every call that came in, I was getting turned to a different direction. That time I didn't have kids either. So, with not having kids, I was able to full throttle go work from morning to night. I was on the road when things start to go off and really happen. I was on the road from probably 10 to 8 o'clock at night, driving an hour and a half away, 2 hours away, maybe down the street. But I wanted to make sure I was in front of as much people as possible to get these sales. Now, this is the last part. So, my office used to tell me, Gus, if they're not pre qualified, don't show them the house. And I was like, yeah, that makes sense. So a lot of people get in contact with you, they don't know how the process works, or they don't want to go ahead and get pre-qualified because they just want to see the house. So I'm thinking like, I tried it once. I was like, oh, well, we got to be pre-qualified, or or I can't show you the house. They're like, okay, we'll just go with someone else. I'm like, okay, that should not happen again. Okay. So when I used to ask people, I'd be like, hey, Are you currently working? So I was fishing for answers, like where they were. Do you have an idea where your credit score is? If it sounded like it would be someone who will qualify, I'm showing them the house. And the reason why I'm showing them the house, because maybe this person isn't ready to purchase right now, but I took them to the house, and if I show them my personality, there's no telling who that person knows. So once they leave, and let's say they don't buy a house, there's been many of times, hey Gus, my sister actually wants to go ahead and sell her house. I'm like, yeah, 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 let's go ahead and talk. So turning down opportunities just because people put this stigma around it that it doesn't make sense. I would say my first time showing people houses, I would say I'm around 80% of people that ended up getting qualified compared to the 20% of people after we find out they weren't qualified. If I never would have did that, how much of that over 430 homes that I've sold would be taken away? So my mentality is get as much reps in with as much people. Let those people branch off to the next group of people, and let's see how we can go ahead and build this for down the line.
You're making points of contact all across
Yep,
the board.
correct.
So you obviously came into real estate. You were super successful with that. And one thing I always say when I talk to realtors and I see it and contractors, people that maybe are self employed, they don't have a retirement plan, a match like at a traditional job, is it doesn't matter how much you make now because I see people make a ton of money, spend a ton of money, and then the minute they stop working, they're in trouble. So you started investing. Can you talk, and you're still an active realtor also, or
Yep,
real estate agent. Can
yep.
you talk about when you started investing and obviously had explosive growth in a very short amount of time? Tell me about starting to get in investing and kind of that journey.
Yeah, so my buddy from college, he was already an investor. He was an investor for a couple years. He saw that I had I got my license. He was like, "Hey, Gus, I'm going to this." They called it a bigger pockets meeting. So it was a bunch of investors that went there. I'm like, "Yeah, cool." So I was fairly brand new, maybe like a month in. So I went there and there was a whole bunch of investors. Everyone's talking, yo, I brought this for 1.2 million. I'm like, oh, cool. Like, how am I gonna like meet someone and so I could do business with them? So I just like introducing myself. This one guy was like, oh, so you're an agent? I was like, yeah. He was like, okay, well, I've been thinking about selling this mobile home. Meet me 7 tomorrow in the morning. And I'm like, okay, we've been drinking. I mean, I wish, in my head, I'm like, I wish I would have knew this before. I would have been drinking. But I was like, yeah, no problem. So I ended up meeting him in the morning. So I'm meeting these investors. Now, I don't know Jack Diddley. So I want to go back to what I said. I didn't know nothing about houses as far as anything. I might have lived in an apartment. The most I did was turn the lights on and turn the heat up. But so when I was with the investors, what they liked about me at the time is whenever they call me, I was quick to show them the properties. So a lot of these guys are vets. They're not new ones. So with being vets, they just need someone to open the door. And as soon as they call me, boom, I'm there to open the door. And now I'm hearing them talk. Boom, okay, we need to do this, we need to do that. A lot of it was foreign. I'm not going to act like I knew everything they were saying, but I was paying attention. I'm really thinking about the sale, hopefully if they want to buy it. I'm really thinking about that. But I'm like, okay, okay. Now, this is where I tell people you got to be aware of your surroundings. Because if I just help this gentleman buy a place for 50 grand, and now he's telling me to list it for 250,000. And then I look on the closing disclosure, I see like, for example, I see 139,000 going to him. I can't help but ask, hey, how much you put into this? And then he tells me the numbers, and I'm like, okay, I made $4,000. You made you made over six figures. I'm like, yeah, I'm doing something wrong. Yeah, you know what I mean? And then the ones that are buying rental properties, they're buying the rental properties. Once again, I'm not 100% sure how this all works. I'm getting the P&L because they're asking me to ask the seller agent for the P&L. I'm getting that. I'm looking at it like a little confused. And then I start asking questions. So, so what is, electricity, what's that like? Why are you paying the electricity? Oh, there's 4 meters and there's a house meter, so I pay the house meter, and the four other meters the tenant pays for. So I'm learning through them. So I'm like, yeah, so if with doing the math, you're about to cash flow like 2,500 a month. He's like, yeah. I was like, huh. So I'm like, yo, that's like potentially one deal, or a little less than one deal, but that's automatically every month. All right. So at the same time, I'm watching Bigger Pockets. Now, once again, I'm trying to, and this is when I think Bigger Pockets was at its prime, is when it was Brandon and David Green. Now they
Yes.
people tend to talk about the guy before David Green. I never really watched. I was a little late, so I was watching with David Green and Brandon, and I was glued. But I'm still trying to make what they're saying, make it make sense compared to what the investors are trying to do. And then so I remember the day, it was 2020. I found this off-market deal. So I was good at finding off-market deals. That's another way you feed these investors, and they're happy, and then they'll start referring you to everyone. The key thing, if you're an agent and you're working with investors, they're going to buy multiple properties, and if you're able to be an asset to them, they're going to go ahead and continue to use you. Oh, we're going to sell our house. Let's go with Gus because he brings us off-market deals. So if you put yourself in a position like that, they're going to always use you. I never got mad when an investor used someone else, because then I got to think, what did that other agent do to that investor for him to pick them? I'm not doing enough for them, so I got to go ahead and figure it out. So this was off market deal, was a 5 unit. I brought it to one of my clients. We put it under contract. They did a book appraisal to it. Now I remember during that time we were under contract. He was saying, "Yo, Gus, I can't believe you found it. Yo, this is a good deal." He kept on saying that. I'm like, "Yeah, whatever. I'm about to get a check." You know what I mean? I'm still thinking like an agent. So they did a book appraisal, and so remember, this is around COVID just happened. I don't know if you remember when COVID just happened, things started to get a little funny, like in real estate wise. And at least in our state, they didn't know if we were moving forward. Then they put all these rules. We had to wear masks and booties and all this other stuff. So um the book appraisal came back and it was a little below the purchase price. And then my client, who was the buyer, is like, "Yeah, I'm not coming off the price. They gotta come meet me." And the seller's like, "Yeah, I'm not doing that." So the deal fell apart. All I could think was Bigger Pockets. All I could think was all the investors I worked with. And then I started thinking about the property. Now I'm trying to underwrite it myself. Yo, so if I do this and I do that, okay, let me go ahead and take a try. So I go ahead and I make an offer on the house, and I said, "Don't worry about the commission," things along those lines. And we went under contract. So I'm shitting myself because I never, helping people is one thing, but actually getting one for yourself is a whole different story. So I had a full-fledged inspection. I'm going through everything. I'm asking him to fix stuff. He's saying no. I'm like, okay. And I was like, I'm asking the other investors. I'm not telling them what the property is. I'm just asking, "Do you think this is bad? Is this good?" And they're giving me their opinion, and I just went with it. I was gonna manage it myself, and then the toilet broke, and then I walked in. The girl was looking at me, and I was looking at her. I'm like, the shit was overflowing. I'm not hands on. I'm not a hands on person. I'm uh. I'm the brains of the operation, and then I put the people that know what they're doing in those positions to handle that. So once that shit was overflowing, I was like, okay, I need a property manager, like, because I'm still fully active as an agent. So why am I trying to fake become a property manager when I don't know anything? So I got a property manager, and then after that first one successfully, uh, we closed on that one August of 2020. I ended up buying a 3 unit in January of 2021, and then that's how the ball started rolling for me, as far as being an investor.
So, I mean, you start your journey and then you say the ball started rolling for me and then boom 70 something properties, which is
Correct.
a big
Right.
a big jump. And a
Yep.
lot of people start to have issues with scaling with financing
Hmm.
because, you can only have 10 traditional loans, conventional. Then you start to have to look at DSCR or you have to look at commercial. So, how were you able to, again, I know you're making a good income because the volume of real estate sales you're doing, but still there's a point where you're going to run out of money. And so how were you able to transition, or where did you start to see a hiccup of, okay, I'm either having a hard time buying or coming up with the next 20 to 25% down? How were you able to work around those hurdles and scale the way you did?
Good question. And I think this is important for people to know, because some people think, "Oh, I can get into real estate with no money." I mean, maybe you can, but
Sure.
yeah, I think what's going to make you better at the end of the day, having some skin in the game, or at least saving money, learning how to be good with money. But I was making a lot of money as far as an agent. I know that's not people want the sexy answer, but the truth is, I was making a lot of money being an agent. So with that first 5 unit, I put 20% down. Now I brought a 5 unit, so I have to go through commercial lending. So being an agent, I knew of a popular guy who's working with a lot of the top investors, well, the top investors in my age range, I'll put it that way. And I met with him. I created a LLC, and I brought my first property. Now, DSCR loans, hard money, things like that, I didn't even know those exist till later on. So only thing I knew is, okay, the commercial guy put 20% down, I could buy a property. So when I say the January of 2021, I brought a 3 unit, I put 20% down. I know people are going to think, oh, it's a 3 unit. I've already created the relationship with the banker. So it doesn't matter what I buy. Only thing I got to do is put 20% down, and it was under my company. So I buy a 3 unit in January of 2021. Um, March of 2021, I buy another 3 unit. Um, April, buy a 4 unit, and I'm putting 20% down. Now, after the fourth one, I'm like, okay, these 20% down, I'm making a good amount of money, but it's starting to affect my bank. And I find out my wife is pregnant, so things are getting a little bit different. So watching Bigger Pockets and knowing Brandon, the biggest thing I think I talk to anyone, they take away from that is the burr. So I was like, okay, now I'm focusing on the burr. Don't get me wrong, if a good property comes up, I'm gonna go ahead and buy it. So I'm focusing on buying somewhat depleted properties. So I found this situation where a house was at 70,000 and it needed to be fixed up, and I was going to attempt my first burr. So I'm like, okay, I got to find a contractor. Now I've worked with contractors before, and they were for other like smaller projects, and it was the worst experience ever. Uh, you know, I'm not saying all contractors are created the same, but when you're looking to go cheap, there's a reason why they're cheap. And they come with headaches, they come with vices, they come with issues. Like I thought one dude I was gonna have to fight. It's just it didn't leave me in a secure spot. So I was like, if I'm buying this, I'm gonna buy someone who really doesn't has a good reputation. So I remember my insurance agent, he's in BNI, he shared a contracting company. I was like, hey, how well you know that guy? But let me say this, BNI is always going to promote their people because they have to hit a quota. Let me
Yeah.
say that. But that's the truth. But I started talking to the guy, he came and seen the property. He wanted to get into, so he was fairly new. He was used to doing groundwork, but he does contract work also. And he hired 2 guys and they were trying to get off the ground. So I was like, okay. So he's like, I can probably most likely do things for 45,000, what we're looking to accomplish in the building. I was like, okay. So I'm just doing simple math. I'm not underwriting like I do now. I'm doing okay. If I brought it for 70 and maybe this is some of the fees and he could do for 45, I need this to appraise at, 150. So, let's see how this works. Um, he was responsible. He was expensive. Don't get me wrong. I'm still surprised how much I paid for it, but it's not his fault. But I think I needed that at the beginning to have someone safe with me to be playing with this type of money, and it was my own money at the time. So we did it. We did the burr. We refied. Pretty much, it was $2,000 that either I got back or I left in the deal. And we found the tenant. That tenant's still in this house to this day. The building cash flows depending on the season, roughly 1,000 to 1,400, depending on the things that we have to do. So it was a perfect one. So I can understand when people try to do it for the first time and it goes wrong, them not wanting to go back into it. But mine happened to be, by the grace of God, it went well. So I'm like, okay, burr, okay, let's start getting this going. And then the key part of my scaling, I think, is when I heard about this thing called a business lines of credit. So I never heard of that before. So as soon as I heard about that, I was like, okay, the bank gives you money? I was like, okay. So I'll say this. When I did that last bird, that same banker told me, hey Gus, I'm thinking you got to slow down. And once again, I'm very competitive. I'm like, someone telling me to slow down, and this might get out. He might see this, but fuck it. Like, ain't no one who's a pencil pusher gonna tell me to slow down. And I mean that with all due respect, but I'm here to go for the gusto. What am I? I'm 33, 34 at this time. I'm like, this is my prime. This is my go. And my kids being born. I was like, you want me to slow down? He's like, yeah. So we're gonna hold off. I was, man, fuck that. So I went to another bank. And the other bank I went to did a construction loan. All right, cool. I went to another bank and I did another transaction with another bank. Cool. My buddy I went to college with up here in Bangor, Maine, he told me he became a commercial lender and he worked for the same company that the first guy told me he's going to put me on ice. That company, that bank has the best terms. Now, to this day, they have the best situation. So I was kind of mad he put me on ice. I'm working with these other banks, but they're not giving me the same things that the original bank. I was like, hey, bro, can, can you look up my file and see if there's something that you can work with? And he was like, yeah. Now, he's not in the same branch as that first guy. He's in a branch more to the coast of Maine. So they're not in the same space. She's like, Gus, there's no way this guy should have told you need to slow down. Honestly, maybe I shouldn't say those things, but he said, "There's no way my thing should be slowed down." I'll put it that way. He's
Yeah,
like, "If you want me to take it over, I could take it over." I was like,
nice.
"Hell yeah!" And then he gave. Then I bring that up to say, I asked once he took it over. I asked him about a line of credit. He's like, "Yeah, of course. What are you looking for?" I was like, "Oh shit." I was like, can I get 150,000?" He's like, "Yeah, we could do that." I was like, "Oh shoot." So now I'm not having to use my money. I'm using that 150,000. And what I learned with using the bank, the more properties I burr, the more when I have my review, I'm able to get more on my credit line. So when I burr, I don't I know people burr a different way. So some people, and I'm gonna use examples. So let's say they put 70,000 in, the rehab's 50,000, they're all in, let's say 125 with the fees and stuff. And let's say the house appraised for 250 and you could get 80% of that 250. So normally what's that 200,000 I could get back, but I don't need that much. I only need the 125,000. So I stayed disciplined. So I was like, oh yeah, I don't need the extra amount. Just give me the 125. So my thinking when I had my yearly review with my banker, I'm like, hey, this is what you guys brought to me as the appraisal. This is what I owe. So there's a good amount of gap that I
Mhm.
left in there. So I'm looking to increase my credit line. So I would say right now, not to throw my numbers out there, I have a very strong credit line with this particular bank. That was one of the major reasons why I'm able to scale high. I'm able to scale. Right now, we're active on 3 properties and I got one that's waiting. So the last 2 years, I've been able to scale significantly with those particular options.
So when you're doing the line of credit at this point, you're
Mhm.
buying and then you're able to put it into a loan where it's stabilized and
Correct.
then recycle that money.
Yes.
Since you're going commercial, is that once you put it into a loan after it's renovated, is that fixed rate or since it's commercial, are they variable on you?
That's another good question. So it's fixed for 5 years and then it goes variable. So I
Okay.
that same property I talked about is a 5 unit and that I brought in August of 2020. That one has expired. When I first got it, it was at 4.5%. Now it's at 7.25%. But the great thing that has happened is when I first got that property, I was getting rents $4,350. Now I'm getting $6,350. So not only did my mortgage go up 500 bucks, but since I took over that building, I've been able to go ahead and increase the rents almost $2,000. So I'm not seeing the effects as far as that. But a lot of the properties that I purchased in the past are all going to come up. I think I did a very, very good job as far as underwriting. Um, is the in, the increase going to eat into the cash flow? Yes. But the thing I did is I never stopped buying. So when rates got up to 8%, I was still buying, finding deals. So as um the prime rate continues to lower throughout the nation, we're at 7% now. Those houses and apartment buildings that I brought that were at 8%, when those come up, those are going to drop at 7%. So it's like I'm getting some from the early that are going to go up, and some that I got towards the middle and end, those are going to go down. So I'm trying to get it. The reason why I wanted to keep buying so I could offset that. I don't know if that makes sense or not.
Yeah, it's kinda like dollar cost averaging in the stock market. People that aren't trying to time the market, you're just buying and you have things at all different times, but consistency over time is what's gonna make you
Correct.
successful.
Yes, that's correct.
So, do you ever sell anything? Like, do you do any flipping or are you strictly keeping everything you purchase?
Have I done some flips? Yes. They're not. This is gonna sound weird coming from a real estate agent. They're not really my thing. They stress me out
Yeah,
because once I go ahead and we fix up a place, and I put it on the market, now I'm in the seller position and I'm like, okay, what's going on? No one's seeing it. Like, or someone comes in and they make an offer with these terms and conditions, and now I gotta say yes or no, and I gotta cave in to fix things. I don't like how that feels. I'm gonna be honest. And one of the biggest things when I was working with investors early on, man, I wish I would have kept that I hear that from all investors.
Yes.
Man, if I would have kept that property, I brought it for 150 grand. Now it's worth 450. And I'm like, damn. So what I keep hearing is like these guys wish they held these properties through that duration of time. Now, COVID happened. COVID is like this cloud that goes over everything, and people are like, well, that's why everything went up. Who's to say in 10 years another COVID won't happen? That's how my mind thinks. Who's to say in another 20 years that it won't happen? If you're not ready, you're not going to reap the benefits of having, taking advantage of something like that happening, another boom in the market. So if I buy something and it's a deal and it's presented to me, my first option is to keep it. I've sold probably four properties, four in my career. And they were just these outliers that didn't make sense as far as rentals. And that's the only, and my intentions right from the beginning was to sell it. Other than that, I'm trying to keep as much as possible and keep the train going.
I think you're so smart in saying how there's gonna the market cycles, right? Even if you look back, I watched real estate before I was in real estate, and there's gonna be something because I think why everything blew up during COVID is because interest rates were so low, right?
Mhm.
And so there is gonna be another something that makes the market it cycles. It just does, right? We had 2008, we had what we had for the last 5 years. And so if you have a bunch of stuff and maybe that's when you sell some of it, let it go back down again and buy more, or maybe then you're like, you know what, I'm done, I'm coasting, right?
Mhm.
But there's going to be some event where that's why I think now with things being down, I think that the market we're seeing now, at least where I'm at, is a market I haven't seen since 2019. I have not seen a buyer's market in such a long time. And this is such a good opportunity to buy and hold on, even if you're not going to hold on for 20 years, but maybe to hold on for 5 to 7 years. I think we're going to see a lot of opportunity in the next couple of years.
It's like chess. The more pieces you have on the table, the more you're at an advantage because you could sacrifice things. If you
Yeah.
have no pieces on the table, then you can't sacrifice. And when I talk about comparing it to chess, my single families that I'm buying, I'm finding a lot of single families to be honest. Um, those are just placeholders. They're my pawns. Make sure I buy it at the right price. Make sure I'm able to, get a solid cash flow on it. And then as time goes on, and if something happens, just like we just seen, I may let those go and then get, 4 unit buildings or 3 unit buildings and, venture up. My goal is never to sell just to sell. That doesn't make sense. But I'm in acquisition mode. So I gotta be honest also. Maybe when I fall out of love and I'm sick of dealing. I just got a text message this morning. I'm not text, an email from my property management team that I got to do $5,500 to go ahead and put some insulation on a house. That pissed me the hell off. Like now I got to look at my finances, see how we're gonna go ahead and put that together. But at the same time, if I didn't get that message, you know what I'd be doing? I'd be going into my rehabs and just looking over my guy's shoulder and see what the fuck is going on over there. It kind of gives me some. I guess this is like a sick way to look at it. That message of who their people said is going to be 5,500. That makes me, after we're done here, I'm gonna go on the phone and I'm gonna try to find someone who could do for 2,000 or
Yeah.
or 2,500. You know what I mean? That's the part I love about this game. Um, so once again, I love it. My intent is to buy as many properties as possible. When I get to a point, I think I'll trim down the fat. But to get to that point, I got to be in the boom era. It has to be. It makes no sense for me to get these slow increases on these prices in a regular market. I need to wait for the next boom. Once that happens, I think on my end, it's gonna be a lot of activity.
So it sounds like you have pretty do you have a pretty stable rent market where you're at? Because some of the numbers you're telling me, those are good numbers. So are there just a lot of renters in your area or they just seem like really good numbers to me?
I think you got to be creative. And here's what I say when I say that. I don't want to get myself in trouble. Let me put this the right way. There's a lot of good renters that on paper may not look like good renters.
Okay.
So there may be a crew. so I may know a GC and he has a crew and he's been working with this guy for 10 years. He swears by him up and down, a reputable crew too, not like, the crew that be chilling at Home Depot. I'm talking about a reputable crew. Hey Gus, yo, my guy just had problems with his spouse, boom, boom, boom. And then I may present him an option. And with that option I present him may benefit me and it benefits him. So I think a lot of my tenants I'm involved. So I know I said I have a property management team, but I like to go ahead and list my units. Then I'm meeting the people. There was this young girl, she was 18 years old, and my property management team said no, but I met her, and then I met her job. I messaged her manager, talking, getting to know her, and I'll say, "Hey, I told my property management, I'm gonna give her a chance. Let's rent her out, but, she doesn't qualify, on paper, but maybe at at 1,050, let's say, hey, 1,200, we'll give you a chance." She ended up taking it, and she still rents for me. She ended up moving into a bigger place with her boyfriend, and now I like 1,700, 1,800. She would have never got that opportunity before if I just kept it black and white. I don't think renting to tenants is black and white. I think there's a lot of gray, and I think a lot of people are falling in between the cracks of that gray. You just gotta figure out who are the right ones. Now, when they fall in that gray, now I think you could use that to your advantage, if I could put it that way. I don't know if that's wrong to say, but at the end of the day, I'm running a fucking business, so I'm gonna run my business that's gonna put us in the best situation.
Sure. So it's no different than, I'll see property managers in our area post deposit is this depending on credit. You're a riskier tenant, just like if you get a mortgage, you're a riskier borrower. I'm going to charge you a higher interest rate. You're a
Correct.
little bit riskier. I'm going to rent to you, but we got to charge a little bit more to mitigate some of this risk.
Correct. Correct.
Correct.
Or getting referral get having great tenants, them giving you referrals. There's many, many things I hear that I don't hear on social media. I think social media gives you, well, you gotta make sure they hit, which is true. But in this game, there's much more than that. And it goes back to the people that are good at book work and the people that are good at real life and putting in solving problems. So as far as rent, I've been able to do a nice job as far as that. I think what you asked me also, it is a great rental market up here. I've been in masterminds and I've heard other people's rental markets like California, and they're buying stuff just to break even. I don't even know how that even works. Like that would even make sense to me. I'm like, I'm not buying in that neighborhood. You know what I mean? That to bank on appreciation, then something wild happened and I'm paying each month to have the house. No. But being in a market like Pittsburgh, being in a market like Cleveland, my market and some other markets that I hear about where your asset is set up, you can cash flow a good number and have it be stabilized and have things going if you have your pieces together. That's the type of market I'm in, and that's what working for me right now.
Do you have any horror stories with,
Of course.
did you have a favorite horror story or any, I mean, as a landlord or especially with you being involved, even though you sometimes kind of have, it sounds like you have a manager that helps, but you do a lot of it yourself. What do you have
I'm
any?
fully involved with my management team. Kudos to them. They're one of the biggest in the state of Maine. They do a phenomenal job. I know the owner. We have a good relationship. A horror story is I brought 6 mobile homes. It was on 30 acres of land. 5 of the mobile homes had 1.2 acres to 5 of them, and the rest of that 30 acres was on 1 mobile home. So I remember I went to go see him, and we were going to go see the last one, and it was a camper. It was the mobile home, and it was a camper outside of the mobile home. I was like, "Yeah, that's weird to have a camper outside." And then my contractor was like, "Gus, you see that?" I was like, "See what?" He's like, "You see all the water jugs?" So there was like water jugs on the ground. I was like, "Yeah." And there was something else that was on the ground too that he noticed. I can't remember. But pretty much what he was telling, he's like, "Oh yeah, they're cooking meth in there." I was like, "What?" Yeah. I'm like, "They're cooking meth?" He was like, "Yeah." As soon as we got close to there was cameras set up also. As soon as we
Ah,
got close, we saw like 5 people take off. So they knew we were coming to check out the place. 5 people got out of the camper and they went down the road. I'm like, first, I'm like, bro, how you know this? Well, that's the first thing. And second, like, what the fuck is going on here? So we saw the mobile home. They had it trashed in there, like, and I saw, and this part sucks, and I don't want to clown about this. I saw a little girl living in there, and that to me was like, yo, with the information he just told me, the living conditions that's going on, 5 weirdos come leave that house, like, yo, this is crazy. You like when you become a landlord, you start to see a lot of crazy stuff that's going on out here. But yeah, they left the trash. The surprising thing is they paid their rent. Um, okay, so then it got to the point where about a year after, the lady that lived there wanted a whole bunch of things fixed, that was in her mobile home, even though it looks like they created the issue, but, I'm the landlord. So, asked my property management team, "Hey, let me give them a call." So I called them. I have a Google Voice number, so I didn't call from my primary number, and I said I was with the management team. I was like, "Hey, yeah, we just got the information that you're looking to get some things fixed. We could definitely go ahead and take a look at that. Also, I do want to bring this up. There's been some complaining with that camper. A lot of a lot of activity going on. Some people in the neighborhood are feeling unsafe. She's like, "Oh no, we're getting that camper moved out, and they don't have to worry about it." And da 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 da. I was like, "Okay, so nothing." They said that we should get the police involved. And we want to go ahead and run it by you first. Basically, what I was trying to do is like, hey, you're asking for all these things to be fixed. We'll fix them, but you got to clean up what's going on out there. And I don't want to make it seem we just left everything going. We have sent them, some other type of messages. As soon as I had that phone call, 2 weeks later, that camper wasn't there no more. So they must have picked up shop and went somewhere else. She ended up leaving. We redid the whole camper, not the camper, the mobile home, and we put some new tenants in. Now this year I brought a 6 unit. Now here's where the part is. I brought a 6 unit. I'm looking through the 6 unit. All of the units look clean. I'm like, hell yeah, let's go ahead and buy it. So I send my property management the leases once I get it, and my property manager was like, hey Gus, you remember so and so? And I'm looking at the name like, nah, like I don't remember off the top of my head. So I look at my email and I search the name, and then I find out it's dumb. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? Like how? But I'm thinking in my head, I was like, yo, their place was mad clean. Like, you know what I mean? It wasn't like trash like before. I was like, okay, I want to send them a notice saying, hey, that you guys, the property management team, has worked with, been with them, how they kept the place last time, especially when they moved out, how trashed it was. That we're going to be doing quarterly checks. This lady messaged me directly on Facebook saying, "You're wrong for letting us, for keeping us here hostage after you guys take over our building. Your property management team and you are the worst ever." Da 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 da. I'm like, what the hell? So I never said anything back to him. Like, hey guys, I just got this message. All right, let's just let her out of her lease. Let's
Yeah.
not even deal with it. So I would say not the craziest, but definitely nothing I'm used to having Breaking Bad at one of my properties and having a tenant appear at another home. And I'm sure those people, and I think that's why people get a lot of properties for discounted prices. Look at that; those tenants were not qualified to move in to that unit. So that tells me that these tenants I'm not tenants, these sellers I brought the property off, they didn't know what they were doing. They were just letting people in because they're able to go ahead and spend that amount of money. So yeah, that I would say that was a horror story for me at least.
I find that owners, because we have our own properties and we used to do property management as well. And like you said, you as the owner, you're allowed to rent to anybody you want to. So you meet with people, you fill them out. As a property manager, we kind of had to have a parameter because
Mhm,
that protected our owners and that protected us as well from, hey, we checked all these things. And they know this is our check boxes to protect your property. But I do find some owners, we would have units that were hard to rent or they were worried about getting them rented, and they would just say, "We don't care, just rent it, waive it." And we'd have them sign something because 'cause they're so worried. I would rather lose 1 or 2 months of rent, get the right person in there,
mhm.
but I did see that there were owners that they just wanted that next rent payment, they didn't care, and so they would rent to anybody, and that maybe was what happened there is they just wanted to get that unit filled.
Once you become, and I said this in one of my videos, once you become a slave to the money, then it starts controlling you, and now you're making decisions that you normally wouldn't make because only thing that you're thinking about is the money. If you stay true to what parameters you've set up and stay true to that, the money's gonna come. Like even when I was an agent, I'm not. at the beginning, of course, was I worried about the money? Yeah, I quit my job,
Yeah.
but once the ball got running, I wasn't saying, yo, this transaction, I'm getting 6,000, this one, I'm getting three. I never did that. What I did is, all right, we got our under contract. All right, we got our under contract. The money's coming in. I don't want to focus on the money. I got to focus on the relationships. That's how that, and I think a lot of agents focus on the money, and they let their clients be put in these tough situations because they got greed in the back of their mind and they kind of want to push their client to do something that they shouldn't do. When you There's been times I put my own money down to get us to the closing table.
Mhm.
Many of times. Sometimes my client doesn't even know that.
Yep.
I don't tell them. I'm like, yo, okay, let's think about it. I'm making $7,000. This issue hiccup is 1,200 to get us to the closing table, and the seller agent is a douchebag. I'm gonna pay the
Yeah.
1,200. I'm gonna pay the 1,200. Let's get to the closing table. They don't even know, and I'm not gonna beat my chest. Yo, I just did this for you. It's just part of doing business. You got to pay to play.
Yep. So one thing that I want to point out or talk on. So you said, when you started, obviously, you quit your job. You have to make money, and that's on the sales side. And I do think some owners, and we've talked about before, people online, there's all these gurus, oh, you can just invest with no money, and that opens you to so much risk. That's why there are owners who just will rent to anybody because they can't pay their mortgage if they don't have a renter in there. And so I think it's really important to have reserves and have savings or another stream of income so you don't put yourself in a horrible situation. You never know when you're going to have $5,000 of insulation or three new furnaces or three new roofs at the
Mhm,
same time. You're still an active real estate agent to this day.
mhm.
And I'm sure you don't have to hit it as hard as you did because you have these other streams of income. But I feel like a lot of people get into real estate investing because they want to quit their job. And I personally don't think that's very smart
Yeah.
because I think it's smart to have another stream of income for a long time. So what kind of peace has that given you or how has that helped you to continue to invest or just not, how has that impacted you?
Yeah. So when I was selling all those homes as an agent, the one thing I was thinking is like, I got 3 closings this day. The next day I got 1, and I was like, "Yo, this can't be real." Like, it was a dream. Like, this can't last forever. That was my thinking. Then I get into real estate investing. That starts to build up, you know what I mean? So my thinking was, the more I can buy buildings and buy them the right way, and these can cash flow, I'm having a kid, I could spend more time with my kids. My wife doesn't have to work. My oldest son, first year, I was I was picking him up actually from daycare, and that used to break my heart that my kid was in someone else's hands, and I was picking him up, and I'm talking to myself like a loop. Like, I was really like depressed about that whole situation. Like, yo, there's no reason I should be doing this with all as fast as I'm moving things along those lines. I need to go ahead and invest more. That investing is the safety net, but it's not the end all be all. That you need active money, then you need the investing money. So I didn't buy a house first. I moved in with my girlfriend. I got 5 investment properties. Then we bought a house. So it was the investing that gave us the option to buy a house. Boom. My kid is born 1 year. I got to a certain amount of investments. I was like, babe, you know what? You don't have to work anymore. And she was on board. She has to co-sign in and be like, yeah, I'm gonna stay home with the kids. Now we have 2 kids, and she gets to stay home. I get to work from home. I'm not on the road from 10 to 8 o'clock at night, driving in snow, slipping all over the place. I get to pick and choose at this particular time who I want to work with. But the thing I'm not gonna do is I'm not gonna let that money go. Because there's
Mhm.
no telling that tomorrow I lose my whole investing portfolio and I have to go ahead and hit the ground solid with being an agent again. Nothing is guaranteed. Now I'm setting things up so things are a lot easier. You need the active money and you need the passive money. Now you could turn the active money down. You could turn it down a little bit, but you got to make sure that your passive money is making sure all your expenses and all the things that need to be taken care of are taken care of. A lot of people talk to me like, Gus, I want to quit my job. I was like, bro, you're not going to quit your job till like 5 to 8 years.
Yeah.
This is not people on Instagram, they make, and it pisses me off. And I feel like if I did the same thing, I would have so much followers. If I brought a Lamborghini and started saying, "Yo, join my course and we'll help you buy houses. Like, if I feel like if I did all that, I would have like hundreds of thousands of views, but I don't do that. I tell the truth. And that's why I think through the avenue that we met through the community, he preaches that. And that's why I think I gravitated to him. It doesn't work like that. You're not going to quit your job. You need your job, matter of fact. And the reason why you need your job, if shit happens, everyone is looking at you. They're not looking at anyone else. And your responsibility to fix those things have to be done, or you're going to be in a lot more trouble. So make sure you keep your job until you hit 10,000 a month or 20,000 a month passive. And I still don't think you should quit your job. So those are just my thoughts.
Well, and the great thing about being a real estate agent, just like when you talked about going into sales, being a real estate agent from your 8 to 5 or 9 to 5 job, I also, when I started, thought I would be part time, and my broker that I was interviewing with said I don't take part time agents. So I made the choice to leave. But with real estate, you like you said, you can tone it up, you can tone it down, you can balance it, you can make your schedule. Maybe now those difficult clients that you were taking on referral basis, you're referring them out to somebody
100.
else, right?
Mhm.
You
Yep.
work with the people you want to work with. So maybe you get into real estate investing and you have an 8 to 5, and maybe you switch to some sort of other job. But I do think it's important to have the income. But I do love how being a real estate agent does work so well with real estate investing, and I don't feel like there's no point where I will ever not have my real estate license as an investor. I may say no to some people that I do or don't want to work with, but I will always be an agent. And also just what it gives you access to and the connections as an investor. There's no reason not to, I don't think.
A lot of people, when they ask the question like, "Do you need to become a real estate agent, to become an investor?" And I hear people like, "No, you don't have to do that. You could do it all yourself," which is true. But someone who became a real estate agent, I don't know if I would have had the connections I had if I didn't become an agent. So you can. I'm gonna tell everyone who's watching this and anyone that can hear my voice, you could definitely become a real estate agent, be put in spaces that you never would have been put in before, make connections. And if you're deciding to be a real estate agent full fledged, all power to you. I hope you're successful with it. If you're doing it part time and you're getting, 5 sales, 8 sales, all power to you. But guess what? You're meeting a whole bunch of people that are in that field. Me myself, I make money being in real estate like 5 to 6 different ways under the real estate umbrella. You don't know these things until you start meeting people. Oh, I can lease people's place. I mean, I can help people find tenants and they'll pay me the deposit. Fuck yeah. Yeah, that's easy. Like 30, imagine doing 30 of those, and let's say it's $1,200. That's good money on top of the other things that you're doing. So I'm all for making sure that you get into the game in an entry level. Real estate agent to me is an entry level. Being a lender, a mortgage lender is an entry level. Getting being inspector is an entry level. Once you get around everyone that's in real estate, now you see other ways for you to go ahead and make money.
Absolutely. And I think one thing too is you are a very much above average human being in the effort that you put in and everything you do. So you came into real estate and you were successful. I do see people that they want to invest or they are investors. So they say, well, I'm going to get my real estate license because it's so easy. And so the only thing I will say is you put in an incredible amount of effort to be successful. If somebody gets their license and they come in and they half-ass it and they don't do a good job, it's not gonna serve them in any way. I mean, real estate, again, I said this earlier, you can be really successful, but it does take a lot of work, effort, and time, and you gotta freaking answer your phone, you know? And
Yes.
so, if you're gonna come in and think it's just gonna fall in your lap, I'm a responsible broker, I own a brokerage, and I have so many people that get their licenses and trickle out, and I don't know what they expect. Like, you were talking about, I'm on a team, but they're not bringing me the business, they're teaching me how to do the job, but I have to promote myself. And so I just want to remind people you can be so successful, but if you're not going to put in the work, don't fool yourself. It's not for you.
100%. And you got to sacrifice a lot. I think to anyone who's been successful, they sacrifice it, whether ever time, their I'm not going to say your beliefs, but like I said, I'm an introvert. I don't want to go to networking events. I don't want to
Yeah.
do this. Like, that's not my thing to do. My thing to do is, create things behind the scenes, stay off the radar so I can move quietly and no one knows what I'm doing. But you got to push yourself out there. You got to get out of your comfort zone if you want to be successful in this game, and you got to be disciplined. I think I've hinted to money management is another thing. Being an
Yes.
agent, because you start seeing some agents that start getting success and they're buying new cars and all this other stuff. I'm like, you wanna know the funny I still have the same car, from 2019. It's fully paid off, and I keep like, sometimes I'm like, "Man, if what if I get a new car?" But I'm like I think to myself, "I like having my car paid off." And who cares about having a brand new car? I'm not young anymore, you know what I mean? I'm not trying to I'm married, my life has moved past that, and you know what's really flashy? What's really, not flashy, what's really a staple? Having assets. You know
Yes.
what's really a staple? Having a family. You know what's really a staple? Having responsibilities as an adult. To me, when I see people like promoting that on social media, I gravitate to them. Anyone promoting things that once you buy it, it loses all the value, I stay away from them as much as possible.
Absolutely. Every time for years, my husband makes fun of me because here it's big trucks. Everybody has big, expensive trucks. I'm in Wyoming.
Mhm,
And every time I see someone buy a car, my husband talks because he likes cars.
mhm.
And I'll go, that's the same amount as a shitty house. You
Yes.
could buy this, or I could buy a shitty house and
Yeah.
renovate it and make it worth this much. And so now houses are a little bit more expensive and the market's gone up since I started. But I'm like, that's still more than a down payment or a down payment and half of a shitty house. Like I just always compare things to the price of a derelict house and the cars. That's so hard for me.
I do the same thing. So I always as a kid I wanted a Rolex watch. I still don't have one. You know why? Because I think man, it costs 15,000 to get one. Man, 15,000, you know, what I could do with that 15,000, you know, as far as buying a watch, and I might lose the watch. You know what I mean? So I could take that, and then I think I'm selfish for even thinking that way. You know, once again, I have a family. I got to make sure my family, as far as how far we go, that big responsibility is on my wife and myself, but financially, it's on me.
Hmm.
So if I crumble and the whole family, you know, we're not living how the way we're living, that's just my responsibility. It's my fault. So it's more than just me who I'm looking over. It's for everyone that lives in this household. And I can't be spending money on even if I want it, I can't be spending money on that stuff. I can't even talk myself into it.
Yeah, I totally feel you. Okay, so is there anything we haven't hit on that you want to share with investors, with agents that you think we need to make sure we address while we're here together today?
Oh man. I think I did a lot of talking, so I do apologize.
No, that's what we want. You shared
Okay.
so much value. Everything
Okay.
was gold.
Um if you have all right, let me say this. And because it goes back to mentorship. There is a bunch of people out there who are looking to help people who are ambitious, and you don't even have to spend money with them. So I'm gonna go this lane. I see so many people online talking about you could join my course for $50,000 and all this, and I hear people who actually do it. Like, I've talked to people. Yeah, I gave them $50,000. I couldn't get in contact with them. I'm like $50,000. That's a just like we just talked. That's a down payment on a house. You know, there's there's so many older gentlemen in which I talked about investing, working with investors that were just giving me the game and they could tell that I want it. And they were just giving me all these gems, even in the community that we're in, just people dropping gems. Everywhere I went, I have not spent a penny until just recently joining that community because I meet the right people who are doing it out of the passion, doing it out of their heart, and they want to give back because someone gave them the information. So don't short yourself thinking that you have to go ahead and pay everything to understand real estate. There's plenty of platforms. There's plenty of people who are doing it. Me myself, there are people that message me and they're like, Gus, I see what you're doing. I've been following you for the last 3 years. I was thinking about getting into it. And I go like this every time. Yo, what's your number? Let's jump on a call. I'm
Mhm.
not charging them any money. I'm not, I'm not, I'm not trying to finesse them and no, it's all right, let's see if you're really about what you want to say. I have the conversation. Now, based on that conversation, I may not have a conversation with you after if I don't see anything implemented. But if you really want it, there's people out there, good, genuine hearted people that will go ahead and give you advice, give you even help. I'm helping this they put and I brought this up in a conversation that we had before. They brought a a house with someone else, and then they asked me to help them, and then I'm like, man, in my head. I'm like, oh, that's kind of fucked up. But I ended up giving them points and things along those lines to be able to help them because so many people have helped me before. So I just want to be able to share that with everyone.
For sure. I think there's so much information. I think when you pay for something, it's because somebody's putting it all together in one place, but there's just so much risk. I mean, I don't mind like we're talking about a community where you pay 20 bucks a month or whatever because
Yes.
they're paying for a website and to host and all that. But when someone's trying to ask you to pay as much as a down payment on a property or like you're paying for a mastermind that's going to prevent you from being able to buy a property, I don't think that's probably ever the right decision. I just think everything's available for free online. There's so many people. This is going to be streamed. Like, look at the knowledge you just shared. This is going to be free for anybody to watch on YouTube or for anybody to listen to on the podcast. And there's so many people, like you said, that are willing to share their information. You can find everything you need to know on the internet. We are
Mhm.
so lucky to live in a world where you want to learn guitar, YouTube. You want to learn how to play accordion, YouTube. I mean, 40 years ago, people didn't have access to this. And
Yeah.
so I agree with you 100% to pay these astronomical amounts of money that you don't have to have access maybe. And maybe that person's rich because they're selling courses, not
Yes.
because they're actually walking
Yes.
the walk. And
Yes.
so that's I agree with you. I hate that stuff. That drives me nuts.
Some doors have been closed on me because I give this point of view. So they'll be like having masterminds and oh, we're staying at the mansion and come down and you find out the people are paying 25,000 to go for 3 days. I'm like, what can you possibly learn in 3 days by paying that 25,000? It looks like most of the time you're going to be partying. Like
Yeah.
that's not how you learn this game. This game is a longevity game, and you continue to learn. Whether you've been in it for 5 years, 25 years, 50 years, you still learning. That right there is just a trap, and hopefully, people don't fall for those traps, but it is what it is.
Yeah. Okay, Gus, if somebody was going to start today, they want to buy their first investment property or they maybe have one, they want to start growing because it's I mean, people used to always say, "Oh, it's hard now, but 13 years ago, 15 years ago it was easy." You've done this all relatively recently. So I don't think a whole lot has changed since you started, but is there anything if someone wanted to get started today you would tell them?
Yeah, so I didn't get to do this, and I wish I wasn't such a knucklehead when I was younger, and that'd be house hacking.
Yeah.
That puts you in the best position possible. And if you house hack the right way by buying a 4 unit, so let's even say if the 4 unit is not going to cash flow a crazy amount. If you brought a house that's the same price as that 4 unit, all that money, that $3,000 would be coming out of your pocket. If you buy a house hack, a 4 unit, you're living in one, you may be getting 2,500 from the rest of the tenants. Yeah, you got to take on some responsibilities, but think about it. This is a longevity play. This is what's going to be able for you to save money in the long term. So you're able to go ahead and do the process again and again. And by the time you look up after 5 to 8 years, you're like, oh, shoot, I got 4 properties that I was able to get putting 3.5% down. So house hacking is a great entry. I had an older friend. He had a house. He had a single family house, and he had 3 bedrooms, and he rented the 2 other bedrooms. At the time, I really didn't. I was a kid. I was a knucklehead. I wasn't really putting two and two together. I was like, who would want to be a grown up adult and live with other people? When I say he was grown, he was like 26. So I'm like, who would want to do that? But actuality, what he was doing was very, very smart. I actually called him a couple years ago and thanked them for exposing me to that. Even though back then I didn't understand it, but I thank him for him being around him. He's a good hearted dude, but I would definitely share with everyone house hacking, definitely number one way to do it.
And the thing about house hacking that is crazy smart because you had high income, you were able to do the down payments, but several benefits of house hacking. One, you can do like you said, you do FHA, you can do 3.5% down
Yep.
versus 20 or 25. And if you house hacked and you started with traditional loans, you could go FHA and you could do and conventional, you can balance it out. You do this 10 times if you bought 10 fourplexes with normal loans, don't have to even get commercial at that point and you can have 40 properties before you even start having to go into creative financing or alternative financing options.
I've even heard people who brought a 4 unit and then they'll buy a 3 unit, and they'll tell their lender why they're buying the 3 unit because this apartment has an extra bedroom and our family expanded, so
Yeah.
they're able to go ahead and get out of it's like an exception to get
Yep.
use the FHA for the 3 unit, and then they do the same thing to a duplex. Then they move over to a single family. So I've heard someone talk about that. I've actually seen it too. So it wasn't like they just made it up and they said it to me. So there's a lot of ways, if you study, if you understand it, how stuff like that can benefit you in the long run.
And even if you can't get the exception, you could still go conventional. And if you're owner occupant, you only have to put 5% down. And
Correct.
so that's not that much more. Again, 5 to 20%, that's still
Yeah.
great, right? And so if you went 5%, 5%, 5%, and did that 10 times and have 40 properties, that's great.
And you're loosening up your expenses. What you're doing for your 9 to 5 is coming directly to you. The tax benefits that come along with it. I think that's another thing people overlook. What people tend to overlook, and not to keep you any long, but what people tend to overlook when you set up a property, someone's paying down your principal.
Yep.
You're getting cash flow off of the property. You're getting a appreciation off the property as years go on. So you're fighting inflation. You're getting tax benefits off of it. There's a reason, guys, you're watching this right now, and we're giving you the reasons why real estate to me is the number one cheat code. That's what I call it. It's a cheat code. And a lot of people are out here, they're struggling. But you see people like me and Emily always talking about real estate. And we're not just talking about it because we feel all high and mighty. We understand what the cheat code is, and we want to be able to share with you guys that this is a reality. I'm not in no action movies. I'm not making $30 million I mean 30 million a year. I'm a regular person who has done this, who has got C's in class that now sit where I am at now. So anyone could do it. You just gotta have discipline.
And anyone, I mean, you talked about, okay, I went to college, I got a job, you have a degree, right? But it's not necessary to start in real estate.
Yes.
The money you've made has been as a sales agent. So you can have a no degree and take a 3-week class and get your real estate license. And as long as you're willing to work hard, you can be successful in real estate sales to earn the income to be able to invest in real estate. So there, it is possible for everybody. It will change your life. But we were talking before we started filming, you can give someone all the information, but most people don't want to do it. It
Mhm.
is 100% possible if 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 you're willing to bust your ass and do the work. Anybody can do it, most people won't.
I don't wanna work out every day, you know? I put the beginning of November, I said, "Hey, I'm gonna work out." It's not my favorite thing to do. We were at Mark, and Mark was like, "Hey, you guys love doing this." So, I do not love working out, but I do work out, so I'm down 20 something pounds now. I do
Nice.
work out because I have to, you know what I mean? This is what's gonna keep me alive longer, hopefully, knock on wood, for my kids to see them grown. So there's things you're gonna have to do in life that are gonna benefit you in the long run. And what we're talking about right here, I hope everyone listens, ask us questions, because it's definitely the cheat code of life.
Yes. Okay, Gus, if somebody wants to reach out to you, what is the best? I know you have Facebook, I know you have Instagram. Can you share how to find you if they
Yeah.
either want to follow you or they want to buy a house with you or want a rental, whatever?
All right. All right. Even if you want to message me and you want to shoot the shit, don't waste my time. But if you're really serious about it, definitely send me a message on Instagram. I'm Gus Ofili Real Estate. Yep, I'm Gus Ofili Real Estate on Instagram, and on Facebook, I'm Gus Ofili on my personal page. Feel free to add me. Feel free, and this is the last thing I'll say. Feel free to do your research on me, because you could be like, "Well, he's lying, he's scamming, he's doing this, he's doing that." If you look up Zillow, Zillow's tied up to the MLS.
Mm.
It will show all my listings that I've sold. So anything that I've said, I sold this amount, it's right on Zillow. I've been putting articles, local articles that I don't write myself, that other people have written. So I want you guys to first look into me first, feel secure with that. And if you want to reach out, you can reach out on those platforms.
Awesome. I can't tell you how much I appreciate your time. Your story is amazing. What you've done, the work you've put in, your success. I really appreciate you taking the time to share it with us. And thank you for giving us your time today.
I appreciate you letting me be here. To everyone out there, I wish you the best, and the marathon continues. Let's go.
All right.